Okay, so this week in the spotlight is academic writing with Aoife Murray and Dr. Ellen McCabe. So take it away, guys.
Thanks, Louise. So my name is Aoife Murray, and I'm one of two academic writing tutors at IT in the IT Sligo in the Academic Writing Centre. So myself and Ellen are going to talk today about the academic writing digital badge that we developed as part of the iNote programme. So we're going to talk about I suppose, the motivations for the badge and what we wanted to achieve from it. I'll talk a little bit about the badge content and how it's being used, and some findings from an evaluation that we did on the badge last year. And then Ellen will give a demonstration of the badge and show how it can be embedded into modules by lecturers, and also just talk a little bit about the future plans for the badge. So I suppose the main or the first motivation for the badge was when I set up the Academic Writing Centre in April 2019. I found that we were getting a lot of common queries from both students and lecturers. And I was starting to think about how we can provide support to answer some of these really common queries, but also to gather the relevant resources and tools in one place. I was also really conscious, obviously, of our very large online community, but also students who are maybe on work placement or just have really full timetables and can't find the time in the day, to come and actually meet a tutor for a one-to-one appointment. And then also some students just prefer to follow resources in their own time and have those resources available to them whenever they need to access them. So the other motivation, I suppose, was to support teaching and learning. So I know some courses have academic writing embedded within their module. So it could be a study skills module, or it could be as part of their dissertation module or something like that. So this, I suppose, program was designed as well to create a teaching support for that, for those modules, but also I had spoken with lecturers, and anecdotally they told me that they were spending subject time teaching writing skills, so maybe an assignment on report writing, instead of focusing on the content of the report, they were having to actually work out with students on how to write a report. So this academic writing badge, would offer a referral point for lecturers. So the student could come and have a one-to-one appointment with a tutor, or they could actually access the online content as well. And then we really wanted this program not to be too onerous, and for students to be able to complete as much or as little as they needed, and that they would be rewarded for whatever they did complete, whether it was one unit or the whole program. We also wanted to make it really skills-based, so giving students the chance to have a lot of interactive content, practical examples, activities, and then also downloadable resources that they could then save and use themselves over and over again. Templates and tip sheets and so on, which is how we would have operated within the centre before the programme. So always sharing with students these kinds of practical tools that they can use. So that was another important part of the programme. With lecturers, again, it was important for us that it was going to be flexible and that they had to use as much or as little as they wanted. So if they wanted to embed the program or elements of it within their module, that they would have the flexibility to do 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, or the whole program. So with that in mind, it became really important that completion of the program could be tracked. So so that was why obviously the digital badge became sort of the best answer for that. So then just to note that the badge, the idea for the badge came about before COVID, and the funding was in place through iNote at the time to support the development or to develop supports, for online students. But obviously with the pandemic, then it became a really valuable resource for all students once we came back into remote teaching in September. So the badge is hosted on Moodle, and this is just a screenshot of the homepage of the badge. And Ellen will show a little more detail on this in her part of the presentation. But you can see there that the badge is made up of 7 units, and each one earns its own digital badge, and if you complete all 7, you get an overall digital badge. So each unit contains learning outcomes, it has content, and then it has a quiz at the end. So students have to complete all elements, all of the content, including all of the activities within it, and the quiz at the end in order to achieve their digital badge. So the areas that are included in the badge, I suppose, represent the key areas that students will come looking for support at the centre. It's really useful for students who are transitioning from 2nd to 3rd level. It starts out, with those kind of introductory units. It's also been really valuable for students who are returning to their studies, maybe after 10 or 15-year gap, or maybe never having been at 3rd level before. So it does give them a good grounding. Unit 1 is the most popular unit there, Introduction to Academic Writing, followed by the Avoiding Plagiarism unit. Unit 4, Writing an Assignment, is quite long, but it is also very popular because it does set out a process for students to follow from planning to submission for writing an assignment. And then you can see there's other units that are more advanced: critical analysis, critical writing. And then we have report writing, and that came about really as I suppose based on feedback from students and lecturers with programs where there's significant amount of report writing required, and students really struggling with the basics of what was to be involved in report writing, and they'll find that help there. So the usage of the badge, as you can see, it's been really popular. And last year we had just over 3,000 individual units awarded, and this semester alone, just to date, we've had 2,320 individual units completed, and 266 students have completed the whole programme. So that's all 7 units. It's also been embedded by lecturers across 20 programmes this year, and that would be across all levels, all departments, all years. So for example, maybe a level 8 undergrad might ask the students to complete the first 2 units, the introductory units, effective note-taking. Whereas maybe a master's programme might ask the students to complete the entire programme, or maybe if there's a group of students doing a dissertation in their 4th year, they might complete the critical analysis unit. So it's being used in a really flexible way, depending on what's needed within particular modules or particular programs. So within that, some lecturers assign marks for completion of the programme. So maybe a certain percentage of an assignment is awarded if you can show you've completed the digital badge, whereas others are just recommending that students complete it. So it's being used in lots of different ways. And also, just to say as well that those 20 programs of students, or students enrolled in those programs, don't represent all of the students using the badge. So some are using it because it's been requested, or it's mandatory, and some are using it, they're coming to it themselves by getting information at induction, or being recommended it, or through peers or through their lecturers. So students are coming to it in a number of different ways. Last year, myself and Ellen did an evaluation of the badge, and I suppose the most important things that came out of that were that the students really liked the practical interactive content, and they also really liked the downloadable resources, that they could download them and save them and come back to them the following semester or the following year if they were stuck with something. The students then really noted that that they felt better, they had a better understanding and felt better about their academic writing, so that they really, I suppose, felt more confident in answering assignments and in what was expected from them. And then lecturers also said that it really improved their experiences. So in terms of having a referral point for students, if there were students that they knew were struggling with their writing, they also felt that there was a better quality of work being submitted, and there was less basic errors being made. And then that in turn helped with their own workflow, because they were spending less time correcting those basic errors, or responding to emails from students with requests around basic or kind of common queries. So it did really seem to achieve that goal of helping answer common queries. So I suppose the improvements to the programme were any developments really centred around making it more accessible, and adopting or continuing that flexible approach, that the badge be embedded into programmes, but flexibly. So basically, student or lecturers could decide whether they wanted 1 unit or 2 units, and at what point in the semester they wanted their students to complete them, because every student is different and every programme, is different. The developments then that we've myself and Ellen have worked on, the main one is probably that we enhanced the assessment element, so the quiz element. So before, students were able to check each answer as they went through. So that's been amended now slightly. So students can complete the quiz. They've unlimited attempts, but they must achieve 80% in order to pass, and they can't check their answers. So if they get through the quiz and they haven't achieved 80%, they need to redo the quiz, okay, instead of being able to check each question. So that was a request from the lecturers. We revised and updated some of the content this year. And also the program has been made available through open courses. So it's now available outside of the IT, so not just to enrolled registered users on Moodle. So for example, recently I had a query from a secondary school teacher who was working with students on an agricultural science project for their Leaving Cert, and they had to do some referencing, and she was inquiring about what resources would be useful for her to use. So I've been able to share the link with her to this open courses page, and she can now use that content to help her students. So it's interesting the ways it can be used, maybe to help prepare students for third level, and Ellen, I think, might talk a little bit more about that. It's also been made available to our CUA partners. So it's been used in GMIT to good success within some programs there, and it's also available within Letterkenny IT. So just before I hand over to Ellen, just a note, I suppose, to just talk about the program and its impact on the Academic Writing Centre. So it was never, it was always the intention that this online program would support the work of the Writing Centre, so support our one-to-one appointments. And just offer an alternative method of support for students. So this isn't that students are being, they're not being sent to this online program with no other options. There's lots of links within each unit for students to click and book an appointment with a tutor. It's really there just to add an additional support, because the reality is that students work or study 24/7, and the centre doesn't operate 24/7. We just don't have the capacity. But and we have some fully online programs, so it's important that we have that content. And then during the pandemic, when students were struggling with all their responsibilities, with caring responsibilities, with study and work and so on, it proved to be a really timely support to be used by students. So that was my part of the presentation. So I'll hand over to Ellen now, and she can talk about the kind of practical contents. Do you need me to stop sharing, Ellen, or can you just take over?
I think I should just be able to take over. Thanks, Eva. Okay, so is that switched over now?
That's perfect, yeah.
Great, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to give a closer look at the badge, really, and kind of a bit of a demo of how it works and what it looks like. So Eva kind of alluded to a lot there, that how important flexibility is with the badge. So it's a kind of a modular design of 7 units. And there is a badge attached to each unit. So students and lecturers can choose what's most applicable to them. So if they just want to do the badge and report writing, they can do that. And if they want to complete all 7 units and get the overall badge in academic writing, they can also do that. So it's kind of just having that flexibility for lecturers to put it in the context of their module and use it in a way that works for them and for students as well. So just going to take a closer look at the units now. So looking at Unit 4, assignment, writing an assignment step-by-step approach. All of the units are made up of 3 sections, so learning outcomes, content, and a quiz. And students must complete all 3 elements to be awarded the badge. So the content is a SCORM, and it was created by myself and Eva using Articulate 360. So if we come into the content, again, kind of like maintaining that clear structure and a sense that the students are continually building on their knowledge with each step. You can see here the different elements that are covered throughout this unit. This information is communicated to Moodle to track completion. So you can see that once you've completed a section of the unit, a little orange tick appears beside it there, and you have to complete all of these for the unit to be content to be complete. And the student can also see their progress here using this bar here. So if we look at the introduction, each unit has a little introductory animation that goes through what will be covered in the unit, just narrated by Aoife. Throughout the unit, there's important points are highlighted as top tips. Each unit sort of feeds into the next one. So it's that kind of thing of building again and just easy navigation. You can navigate using this sidebar here as well, go between the different sections. So there's, we've tried to use kind of a mix of media throughout to kind of, again, that idea of catering for a variety of learning preferences and universal design for learning, and also just to kind of keep the student engaged, but not kind of overdoing it, just kind of keeping it appropriate to the content. So you can see here, like we have this like a timeline that kind of graphically represents the different stages in planning and researching your assignment. Throughout the unit, there are also little activities that kind of encourage the student to check their understanding and reflect on what they've learned. That these also offer feedback on how they're getting on. So kind of supporting self-directed learning in that way. So as Aoife was kind of saying, there's whereas previously lecturers would be trying to kind of cover aspects to do with academic writing in class, it's it's a challenge for them to do that while obviously covering their own material. So supporting like a self-directed learning process in that way just kind of takes that that responsibility away from them and gives the student the kind of the independence to kind of go through this by themselves. So it's important that this content supports that process. Again, like at the end of each unit, there is a reflection activity. So I've come down here. Just asking them to kind of list 5 things that they have will take away from this unit, which they can type in here. They'll be listed here, and if they continue to feedback, they'll then be given some examples of what they might have chosen to as things that they will take away from this unit. So to complete the unit, they also have to pass their quiz, as Aoife said. So I'm just going to come back to the badge page here, and also just as Aoife was saying, a lot of lecturers have chosen to embed the badge or elements of the badge, individual units, into their own modules. So in order to do that, kind of being able to track progress is important, and that's quite easily done using the progress bar in Moodle. So you can see when I'm in here as a student, you can easily see how you're getting on with the badge and how much you've done, how much you've left to do. So these little squares will light up green when you've completed different elements of the badge. But if I switch my role to lecturer, to my normal role, you can also come into overview of students. And this, any lecturer that is requested to embed the badge in their own module, I've created a group for their students. So when they come into overview of students, they can quite easily filter down to their specific class group. So if they just select their group from the visible groups drop down, they'll be listed here. And then when they select their group, they'll be able to see how their students are progressing with the badge by looking at the progress bar here, and it'll show you what they've done and what they have left to do. So that's really the academic writing badge. I think the kind of core principles that we're looking at with the actual design and the interaction within the badge is a very, very clear structure. I think it's really important for something that's self-directed, and kind of goal setting and work when you're working on an individual basis, that it's modular and flexible, that lecturers and students have the ability to just go to what is of they perceive to be of relevance to them, and that they can easily build on that or put it in the context context of their own subject area or course. Again, that it's self-directed, that lecturers don't have to worry about kind of allocating time within their own schedule to academic writing, that they can direct students to go and look at this on their own, and then easily kind of track their progress using the progress bar if they want, especially if they want to award any kind of portion of the grade for it. And to kind of include different media elements and try and support different learning preferences, that to make it just kind of nicely designed and engaging for students that are using it, and to use media that's appropriate to the content, and of course is accessible. And that's, I think, concludes our presentation.
Thanks a million, guys.